Hey, everybody. Coming back with another episode of Monty's Gems Connecting with the Creator. This week, we're going to be finishing off the book of James, 3, 4, and 5 chapters, going through that. So, not much else to say. Let's just get started off with chapter 3.
Alrighty.
Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, since you know that we will be judged more severely. For we all stumble in many ways. If someone does not stumble in what he says, he is a mature man who can bridle his whole body. If we put a bit into a horse's mouth to make it obey us, we control its whole body as well. And think of a ship. Although it is huge and is driven by strong winds, yet the pilot can steer it wherever he wants with just a small rudder. So too the tongue is a tiny part of the body, yet it boasts great things. See how a little fire sets a whole forest ablaze. Yet the tongue is a fire, a world of wickedness. The tongue is placed in our body that it defiles every part of it, setting ablaze the whole of our life. And it is set on fire by Gehennom itself. For people have tamed and continue to tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and sea creatures, but the tongue no one can tame. It is an unstable and evil thing, full of death-dealing poison. With it we bless Adonai the Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the image of God. Out of the same mouth come blessing and cursing. Brothers, it isn't right for things to be this way. A spring doesn't send both fresh and bitter water from the same opening, does it? Can a fig tree yield olives, my brothers, or a grapevine figs? Neither does salt water produce fresh. Who among you is wise and understanding? Let him demonstrate it by his good way of life, by action done in the humility that grows out of wisdom. But if you harbor in your hearts bitter jealousy and selfish ambition, don't boast and attack the truth with lies. This wisdom is not the kind that comes down from above. On the contrary, it is worldly, unspiritual, demonic. For where there are jealousy and selfish ambition, there will be disharmony and every foul practice. But the wisdom from above, first of all, pure, then peaceful, kind, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And peacemakers who sow seed of peace raise a harvest of righteousness.
I think probably the big takeaway for me from this chapter is the tongue being the fire that lights the whole forest. Especially, I don't know, especially now with social media, obviously, but just even in person too. It's if somebody does not have a lot of self-confidence or is not very secure in themselves, one small little comment can set their whole mind into just a frazzle, and that's like all that they think about all day, and it ruins their whole day. And just because one small little thing, whereas I don't know, sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't, but having the confidence in who you are and being secure in yourself, if somebody says something like that to you, you're more likely to just brush it off and count it as somebody having a bad day or something like that. But sometimes it doesn't even matter. It's, I don't know, words are very effective at both evil and good.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. We have to be very, very careful with what we say. But I think, in the same sense, we as human beings have to really try to develop ourselves so that we're not offended so easily and we don't take everything that someone says as offensive or what they were trying to do or what that meant. Because I think oftentimes when people say things, it's not just the thing that was said, but it's the thing that we read into what was said and the assumptions that we create from what was said. And then we play play it all out in our heads and in our minds about, well, what did they really mean, instead of maybe just asking what
Mm-hmm.
they meant, or just allowing something to pass through us.
Right.
I think the big takeaway that I have is the accountability that teachers have in the world. That it's really important to make sure that the things that you're teaching someone or that you're saying are true. And I think, like, for me in this connecting with the creator episode, I have to be very, very careful about sharing what I think is right and wrong, because there's just a lot of things that I don't really know. And so I'm happy to share my opinions or my thoughts and my concerns. But to say one thing is this way and one thing is that way, and it's you just cut and dry, I
Yeah.
think you have to be very, very careful in doing that, especially, as we grow older and there's children below us, and, trying to teach them what is right and what is wrong, especially philosophically,
Mm-hmm.
or and how we tell them to speak, or, like, I mean, what you say around them, right? Like, what you say really affects kids. If they see somebody lying or something like that, that's something that's going to be really difficult for them to understand as to why that would be wrong for them to do. And, the things that we deem acceptable really carry over into children.
Right. Yeah, especially with there being so much gray area and everything everything being so situational and dependent on context, I guess, that every situation's different, and at that point it's just you have to instill the values that are pretty much the base of conversation and the way that they act out in the world, and obviously they're going to not necessarily obey by those values all the time, and everybody's going to mess up a lot of the time, but yeah, it's just those values that are the pillar of who you are as a person, I think is so important.
And so let's go back a little bit to what you were saying about the tongue is the fire, and it's essentially a dividing sword. When you think about being careful about what you say, are you have any specific instances or thoughts about what that looks like? I guess on a daily basis, I'm trying to think, like, what would I say to somebody that could really, like, cause something like that to happen? And I don't know, maybe it's just that I'm in a job where there's already a team. I've already set boundaries and I've already set expectations, and I'm very direct in what I expect out of people. And so
Hmm.
it's not like there's the passive aggressive behavior or anything like that, or not calling anybody stupid or swearing at anybody. That's just unacceptable.
Right.
So I don't know. Is that something like maybe you deal with or you see firsthand? So it's a little bit more.
Mm,
Um,
I think I think with having to, because I have to go to Menards, I wouldn't say super frequently, but frequently enough that I don't know. You see these type of people that construction workers a lot of the time. This is a vast generalization, but I feel like a lot of them are a little bit hard headed a lot of the time. And seeing people who are hard headed get in each other's way and just kind of see the bickering that doesn't need to happen. And it's just like, why though?
and these are interactions that are happening at the store you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like what? Like fighting over supplies or something like that, or
Like most of the time, it's just if somebody's in the way or something like that, or if somebody's, I don't know, got a lot of trim pieces or something and they have it on one of those carts and they're super long pieces and they're taking up a lot of the space that they don't really need to be taking up, but they're doing whatever. And it's just like people getting mad at that. And it's, I don't know. And then that person takes that conversation and they tell their coworkers, it's like, oh man, this happened to me at Menards and it's blah, blah, blah. And then that conversation goes and then, yeah, it's so much more than it had to be. Whereas if you just go, hey man, can you move? Can I get there? And I'm not saying people are never like that, but it's just
Yeah.
because more times often than not, it's hey man, can I sneak by you and get this? But it's just that one off of the person who is having a bad day and just takes it out on somebody else.
Well, and they say like get out of the freaking way or something like that. We
Yeah,
watch out.
and they just make a big deal out of
Oh,
nothing.
okay.
Yeah.
I think something I've learned throughout this is I always used to hear like, "Don't take it personally," and I always struggled with that. I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, we'll take in property management, a resident comes down and they're just upset about their vehicle getting a parking ticket out in the parking garage when they parked on the first floor, which is guest parking, and we've sent out a number of notices that you have to register or scan a QR code, whether you're going to be there 1 minute or 2 hours, you get 2 free hours. And they're in the office, all pissed off. And it used to be like, dude, like, what is your problem? Like, why are you treating me like this? And it's really difficult to explain, like, don't take it personally
Mm-hmm.
because they're acting out in frustration about something that has happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
You may not be 100% responsible for that happening to them, but you're the middleman that
Yeah.
they have to express or be able to vocalize the issue to, and you're the only one that there is to be able to be receptive of that. And I think for me, one of the ways that I've been able to maybe brush this off easier and like it doesn't impact me as much anymore is I just take confrontation head on. As soon as a resident calls and they're complaining about something, even though maybe I wasn't on the phone, I was on another phone call, I get the message. Very first thing I do is call them back and talk about it. Versus in the industry, sometimes it's very easy to hear that and be like, well, I'm not going to deal with this until they call again and one of us
Yeah.
has to answer the phone. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh crap, this is this is not going to be good for me either way. And you're right, it's not going to be enjoyable, but there is going to confrontation. And in terms of business, in terms of relationship building, the best thing to do is to be able to deal with the issue at hand because it's going to have to be dealt with at some point in time. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there's this idea where if we put it off, maybe it will just disappear and they'll forget about it. And I think sometimes that is easy because in our own maybe if we think about it philosophically, sometimes we'll sit back after we've called and say, maybe this isn't really that big of a deal. Maybe yeah, maybe I don't need to do this. Where we start feeling like, oh yeah, this isn't really a worthwhile cause, so we won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's that reaching out. Maybe they're frustrated. Yeah. First and foremost, I always go back to the rules, the standards. What does your lease say? What have we done with all these notices? And just kind of let them know, like, hey, I understand the predicament that you're in. You have a $55 ticket. There's not really anything we can do about it. We've reached out to all the residents numerous times, making you guys aware of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is kind of where it's at. And and I think, I don't know. So for me, I have a hard time, I guess, with the tongue, mainly because a lot of it has to do with how I receive what people are saying. And if I receive it in a way where it's just like, okay, and I'm able to blow it off or I'm able to walk away from it and go to another area, it's just like, okay, like
Mm-hmm.
I've done such a way better job being able to just like brush those things off. Where dude used to, if somebody said something to me like that, or in traffic, somebody started doing this, dude, that would ruin my whole day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even my whole week, Jake. Like I would just be, what the hell? And I would just think it was on and on and on and on in my mind over and over and over again. And I would just be a complete mind mess
Mm-hmm.
because I let the situation live up in my head and just kind of go around it. Mainly because I wanted to be able to control it and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to have a solution to it. And we can't control other people. We don't have solutions to all of those things. And so
Right.
once we realize that, and I think that's the important things is when people have kids, right? I think that's one of the things where finally they start calming down because they're like, they want to control things so much, and then they have these kids and they have these little these little human beings. They're just gonna do whatever the heck they want to do, and you're gonna have to discipline them or stuff, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, I actually have absolutely no control over this person that I created. Who's
Right.
actually part of me. I think, you know, sometimes it takes those types of things to realize that you don't actually have control. Where you listen to all these books, you listen to all these people say, "Don't take it personally. Don't take it." It's like, holy cow, okay,
Yeah.
this is what I can actually feel it. I can actually comprehend it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all right, I'll go to chapter 4.
Alrighty. What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? Your desire, but you desire, but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you spend what you get on your pleasures. You adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world means enmity against God? Therefore, anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. Or do you think Scripture says without reason that he jealously longs for the Spirit he has caused to dwell in us? But he gives us more grace. That is why Scripture says, God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Submit yourselves, then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. You double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. Brothers and sisters, do not slander one another. Anyone who speaks against a brother or sister, or judges them, speaks against the law and judges it. When you judge the law, you are not keeping it, but sitting in judgment on it. There is only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and destroy. But you, who are you to judge your neighbor? Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why you do not even know what will happen tomorrow? What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them.
I would say a question I have, like in this chapter, is right there. If Adonai wants it to happen, we will live. Like, well, what does that mean? How do we determine if it's something that he wants to happen? I mean, I think obviously we can go back to the Old Testament and look at the laws, and if it's something that is in isn't according toward that, then okay, that's somewhat clear. But how do you really determine? Like,
Right.
all right, I want to. Where do I go live? Where's a safe place to live? Like you just shared a story about an incident that happened near to where you live. It was a pretty dangerous situation, and so it's like, okay, if Adonai wants it to happen, we will live there. Well, how does that formulate? How does that look? Do we try to go and apply to other apartment complexes, other communities, and whatever ones approve us, and that's the one we'll go to? Well, what if there's 10 of them that approve us? How do you determine which one is the right one? Or like a new job, maybe you go and you send out 10 resumes, and what if they all, what if more than one gets that? How do you determine? Like,
Right.
Because obviously, I don't think that we should just sit and wait. So I don't think that we should just sit and wait for an apartment complex to come knock on our door and be like, hey, you want to live here? I think you have to put yourself out there. You have to apply. Same with a job. You have to apply. You have to be a good candidate. And then you also have to be somewhat selective. But for just this miracle to happen to where like there's a little rainbow shining on the exact apartment complex that you should be living in, or over the business that you should go to apply to. Eh, man, I don't really see that. That used to be, I would say, my big mindset in just about anything is that, oh, God's gonna open the door, and by that, it's gonna like put it right in front of me, right out in my face.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a lot less subtle than that. I don't think you can look for, I don't know, something so out there that it would be obvious as to, oh, well, he's telling me to go here or there. I don't, it kind of seems that way in the text, but I think it's a lot more subtle. Maybe it's even as subtle as your gut instinct is trust that instinct because that might be him telling you what to do, or just some of the thoughts in your head and how you perceive things. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know where that necessarily comes from, whether it's coming from within or that's an external source of information, but
So that's another interesting concept too. You bring up the gut instinct, and so we'll read in the Bible that there's a difference between the spirit and the flesh. And so, like, well, how do you determine which is which? Because spirit says, let's say we're looking at a car. Spirit says, I need a car that just gets me from point A to point B, right?
mm-hmm.
Well, flesh says, I would like to have a nice looking car. Is that wrong? Like, very front there, it says, whoever chooses to be the world's friend makes himself God's enemy. So, oh my gosh, like, what does that mean? So, does that mean everything that society is inside of, or which we'll call the world that they're taking part of, is something that we shouldn't be a part of? Because you start really thinking about the gamut of all the things that would be, what's acceptable anymore,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in terms of the connecting with the creator episode, I think that's where we as individuals have to really see what's the benefit of the things that we choose to do on a daily basis and how they affect us and influence us. And I know for me personally that social media didn't really play that good of a role in helping me just really with anything in life. One, because I'm already somewhat of a perfectionist, so going on, being a perfectionist and seeing those, so going and being a perfectionist and seeing other people or going through the scrolling and you have all these mentors saying one thing and then another thing, and then you're comparing yourself with others and just trying to please people or that desire to be accepted, to gain more followers maybe so that you can create a business out of it and make money. And it was just, oh man, it was just putting me in a not so great spot mentally, where I just felt like I had a lot of stress and worry and doubt. And I just really, I don't know, like my head would feel heavy. I would be tired. Just things were always on my mind. And so since I've removed myself from that, it's like more freeing. Like, okay, what am I going to do today? What am I going to do tonight when I get home? I'm going to go eat dinner. I got a book over here. Maybe I'll do Oculus. Whereas before, it's like, well, I'm on my phone and it's just like, oh, it's time to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, whoa, what did I just do? And it's not so much the time aspect of it, but it's just like, how did what I just spent all those hours doing impact my mind and influence where I'm at mentally? Because it has an impact, and sometimes we don't really understand what it's doing to us.
Right.
So, and that's just me speaking for myself. It's,
No, yeah, I think that's you speaking for yourself, but I mean, you look at the majority of people and it's some things good come from social media, like businesses promoting themselves, people get their news through social media, stuff like that. But there's a lot of just, I mean, people are profiting off of keeping people addicted and staring at your phones. The phone is destroying your vision, it's messing with your head, it's putting all of this negative stuff out into the world, into your head. So now you're thinking about that. It's it's an overall. Honestly, I think it's just an overall net negative. Like, sure, there's great things that can happen, but there's also just so much negative that you see so much of it, and it's like people aren't designed to see that much news and negativity, and you don't have to keep up to date with every little thing going on in the world if that's not affecting your life. It's like it's it takes up
Yeah, I
so
think
much
that was the thing that's
space.
really spoke out to me and really helped me free up more time and energy and space and thought processes, because it's like, okay, I had friends in Sturgis, and then I had friends when I went to college, and then I had friends when I went out to Texas, and then I had friends when I was in the churches, and then I had friends when I was working at the golf industry, and now I'm here. And it's like all these friends that I have can all be part of my social media, and I can always see what they're all doing.
Hmm.
But it's like that it's cool to have all those friends, but it's like they're not an immediate impact,
Hmm.
and I don't have immediate relationships with them right now and today. So why am I allowing them to take up all this time and energy of mine and my thought processes? And yeah, I care. I hope they all do well, but why am I spending so much time allowing them to take up my mind and my energy when the matter of the fact is where I currently live, the people that I come in contact with physically on a daily basis are really the ones that are important,
Hmm.
because they're the ones that I'm currently with, that I currently can do things with and be able to express. But living this maybe online virtual world that we create of just having as many friends as possible, and we're always talking and we're always staying busy. I think, and that's what it is. I think it has to do with that busyness. It's like, oh, well, I'm connecting with all these people and I'm always busy. And it's like, yeah, you're always busy, Chad, you're always busy, but are you able to find out who your true self is? Are you able to go out and actually be be by yourself and not feel like you always have to be entertained or doing something? Can you just sit out and read a book, or look out and just be by yourself, or just
Hmm.
be with one person and be able to enjoy that conversation? It's like, wow, those are the things that are really special to me now, is just having that one-on-one time and that one-on-one conversation, to the point it's like, I don't, if you want to talk, let's talk, but I don't want to do the texting. I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
Like, you're all the way across the world, and chances of us seeing each other again in this lifetime, maybe once or twice, and that's it. That's something that I think was a big impact to me. I don't remember if I read a book or anything, but I was thinking it was about like the holidays, right? And so, as we get older, there's only so many more holidays, and me
Hmm.
being farther away, I realized that, whether it's a Christmas or Thanksgiving or a Fourth of July, that each one of those holidays are probably a multiplier of how many times I'm going to see my parents again. And so as we grow up as kids, it's like you see them every day, but it's like, wow, like I might only see my family this many more times in my
Hmm.
life. And it's like, once you hit that, it's like, holy cow, dude, like, wow. And so if that's the case, what about all these people on Instagram and social media? How many more times am I going to see these people, or am I going to meet them? Like, so why do they have such a huge influence on
Right.
my life and my time and my energy? Like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that thing that you were talking about with only seeing your family so many more times, it's that, yeah, I used to think about that a lot, especially if it was not knowing where I want to live. And that's a very big factor. It's sure I may not want to be around my family 24/7, but I would also not want to move to like another continent where I see them maybe 10 more times in my life. It's like, yeah, that was something that was playing a lot. That was taking up a lot of space in my mind for a long time. was just thinking about that.
Yeah, because it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, these are all decisions that we all have to consider, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of how we go about doing those.
Right.
You have anything else to say?
I do not.
All right. Chapter 5. Next, a word for the rich. Weep and wail over the hardships coming upon you. Your riches have rotted, and your clothes have become moth eaten. Your gold and silver have corroded, and their corrosion will be evidence against you and will eat up your flesh like fire. This is the Akarat Hayim, and you have been storing up wealth. Listen, the wages you have fraudulently withheld from the workers who mowed your fields are calling out against you, and the outcries of those who harvested have reached the ears of Adonai Zavot. You have led a life of luxury and self-indulgence here on earth. In a time of slaughter, you have gone on eating to your heart's content. You have condemned, you have murdered the innocent, they have not withstood you. So, brothers, be patient until the Lord's return. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruits of the earth. He is patient over it until it receives the fall and spring rains. You too, be patient. Keep up your courage, for the Lord's return is near. Don't grumble against one another, brothers, so that you won't come under condemnation. Look, the judge is standing at the door. As an example of suffering mistreatment and being patient, brothers, take the prophets who spoke in the name of Adonai. Look, we regard those who are preserved as blessed. You have heard of the perseverance of Eov, and you know that the purpose of Adonai was that Adonai is very compassionate and merciful. Above all, brothers, stop swearing oaths, not by heaven, not by earth, and not by any other formula. Rather, let your yes be simply yes, and your no simply no, so that you won't fall under condemnation. If someone among you in If someone among you in trouble, he should pray. If someone feeling good, he should sing songs of praise. If someone among you ill, he should call for the elders of the congregation. They will pray for him and rub olive oil on him in the name of the Lord. The prayer offered with trust will heal the one who is ill. The Lord will restore his health, and if he has committed sins, he will be forgiven. Therefore, openly acknowledge your sins to one another and pray for each other, so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Eliyahu was only a human being like us, yet he prayed fervently that it might not rain, and no rain fell on the land for 3 years and 6 months. Then he prayed again, and heaven gave rain, and the land produced its crops. My brother, if one of you wanders from the truth, and someone causes him to return, you should know that whoever turns a sinner from his wandering path will save him from death and cover many sins. So I think that last area right there is also interesting. Whoever turns a sinner from his wandering path will save him from death and cover many sins. I think there's a fine line between trying to call people out
Mm-hmm.
and doing that in a somewhat loving and kind way, because I think it's very easy to call people out for doing stuff, and then you end up maybe frustrating them or losing an opportunity to really have any type of connection. But in the end, I wonder if you're ever able to have true connection if you don't just kind of act direct and call it for what it is.
Right.
This is something that I always really wondered.
Yeah. I would say, I don't know. I think the truth is it's very shocking sometimes, and to say, look, I think you're being like a total jerk about this situation, and they can overreact about it, or they can kind of hear you out, or if they have like a bad habit or something, and maybe they don't know that they're doing it, it's just so routine that they just do it. And you call them out on it and you tell them, hey, look, and then they overreact, or maybe they listen to you. I think telling them constantly everything that they do wrong is, I don't know, everybody has imperfections, and if that was the way that it was, everybody would just constantly be telling everybody else, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong with you, this is what's wrong with him. But it's, yeah, I mean, there's that fine line of uh, constructive criticism or just trying to poke. And
Yeah, the nitpicking.
yeah, yeah.
I think there's also just a productive way of being able to do it. And one of those things is it's really important in the language that we use when we're talking to people to not make it feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
antagonistic, but also not making it feel like we're always the victim. So, like saying, well, like, Jake, you lied to me about this, but you can just reword it in very simple terms. And it's like, man, when you said some of those things, it made me feel like you weren't considering my thoughts, and that you were trying to twist your words to manipulate me. Did you see the difference in how that approach
Mm-hmm.
was and how more empathetic that was? And I think someone who would hear that would be way more understanding
Mm-hmm.
and less defensive than the first approach, where it's like you man, you lied to me. Like, why did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't believe you would go and that way and be such a jerk to not consider, like, you know, I think
Right.
with an example was like I was reading this book and it was had to do with some piece of work. Like, let's say you asked me to go and rush order some piece of work for you, and so what you don't realize is that our relationship is important to me. So I'm going to put aside some other work that's really important to me
Mm-hmm.
because I know this is important to you, and I've valued our friendship and maybe our business partnership. So I go and I do this for you. I spend a lot of time on it. Kick it back to you. Hey, Jake, is this all good? Yeah, it's good. You get it through. We set it up, and then further down the road, 2 days, you're like, hey, dude, like you didn't do these numbers right. Maybe I did make a mistake, but the numbers are incorrect. And you're like, I need you to fix this right now, or our business is like, our relationship is going to be stranded. We're not going to be able to use you anymore. And so there's a lot that just went into that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's a lot to divulge and be able to figure out what your conditions are, where you're at with it, where I'm at with it, and all the things that influence us to act the way that we act. It's really important to have, I think, effective communication to be able to understand each other and to accept each other and to be the intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, I think, have pretty decent intentions. It's just we our eyes muddy things up and we get
Mm-hmm.
blinded. So sometimes we just look at how the things that happen affect us, and it's that this person's being a jerk, or you doing this to me, and we start pointing the finger back and forth.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's what's really important.
Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to point
And
out
sometimes,
is, oh no, I was just gonna switch to something different. If you have something else to add on.
no, yeah, I think that's the one thing that I struggle in the Bible is that they don't really show how to do really good, effective communication. It seems like there's two things. It's like point them out, call them out for it, or be a servant and love the
Mm-hmm.
neighbor and kind of be just be this servant. And uh, if they slap you on the cheek, turn the other for them to slap you. It's like, okay, there's a fine line of how to effectively communicate that I don't think we're just taught very well.
Right.
I'm very appreciative of some of the books out there to be able to maybe stand up for ourselves, create these boundaries that we should have,
Mm-hmm.
and do it in a loving way.
Right. Yeah. What I was gonna say is just towards the start when I was talking about the rich people, like when all of your wealth pretty much becomes meaningless, basically, and the people under you who you've mistreated start turning against you. now that you don't really have all of that wealth to hang over them. I think it's not necessarily, I don't know, it's not necessarily making making a good living and living a good life is that's not necessarily what they're going after. It's about the people who are in those positions that are manipulating people and profiteering off of other people's misfortunes. And it's not necessarily wealth, because it's a lot more difficult to become wealthy doing the right thing, but it is still possible. And I don't think it's necessarily a hit against having money or having, I don't know, being well off for yourself. It's just more so talking about power over people and how you treat the people that rely on you and how you treat the people that are under you and kind of, yeah, I guess rely on you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with taking advantage of people. I think that you can make a lot of money and you can do very well for yourself if you set out the right expectations for you and also for your employees. It was kind of like, well, a couple weeks ago we were learning about the servants. One came at the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, and the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the boss, right? And so you made a contract with that first one, the middle one, and the last one, and you've told them all that they're essentially going to make the same wage. You gave them that clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're not obliged to have to pay that one that worked 12 hours more than the one that helped you finish off the end of the day,
Right.
because you've created the clarity. But it's that clarity is important. It's not just like, oh, well, Jake, why don't you go like take those 50 bales of hay and put them over there, and I'll pay you for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how much, and then you don't know how much he's going to pay you until you're done.
Right,
And be like,
right.
okay, here's $5. You did it really fast. So that was only about an hour, right? And then it's like, okay, here's $5.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so if it would have taken me 2 hours, I would have had $10. But
Right.
it would have been more of my time. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or knowing someone is in need, and that they have financial instability and they need a job. So trying to pay them as small as possible so that you can continue to have
Right.
them, or not regress or anything like that. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
yikes.
Yeah. Because people will be manipulative when given the opportunity. Not 100% of the time, but it's definitely a percentage of the time. It's not a 0%.
And I think that's why it's important. If we're striving to be good people, if we're striving to have that heart of God and of Jesus, I think it's important for us to pursue leadership roles so that we can be the ones leading maybe our teams, our cities, our communities, our states, the nation, to be able to create that goodness, to be able to, the more people we can lead and the more empathetic we are and kind and compassionate we are, the more effect we have on all these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where if we're just empathetic and we're a really good person and it's just me and you back and forth to each other, it's like, okay, that has an impact on the person.
Right.
But we have a true impact. We have a true opportunity to more people. So let's take advantage of that, continue to be good people, but also pursue endeavors so that we can really share that kindness and that goodness to more people.
Yeah, definitely. Even though it seems like you don't really have that much influence to change people's lives, I mean, there's always something that you could do.
Yeah. Whether it's your family, whether it's your city, your town. And I think that's one of the things about not hiding your light under the lampshade. I think
Mm-hmm.
also maybe has to do with that. It's like, go out in your community, be known. Maybe you're shy, maybe you're at this, but go out and do things. Like be impactful. Maybe it's not so much just with your actions and going to a food pantry, but with your words and
Mm-hmm.
how you speak to others. Like you can always give people people encouragement and say kind words or give fist bumps or shake hands and give hugs. Like sometimes I don't think people realize how far those types of things go. Oh, it's not just giving money and always being there for the poor, but it's like being impactful to other people in a lot of different ways. We have a lot of opportunities to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty.
So that's all I had to say about James in this week.
Yep. I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. So we're not quite sure what book we will be reading next. But we got a bunch of them to go through, so
Yeah.
got some options here.
It probably will not be
So,
Matthew.
nope. Or James. Or
Yeah.
Exodus, right?
Genesis. We haven't read Exodus yet. We just read
Well,
the,
we did.
the end part of Genesis.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have some options, guys.
Yeah.
If you have any ideas of options, leave them in the comments or let us know. Maybe we'll take you up on those offers.
Yep. Alrighty.
Until next time.
See ya.
Good night.